Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in Durga, walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Sunday. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM. I'm your host, Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
And today we have a special guest here, a good friend of mine. I'm super excited to have him on. I'm going to let him introduce himself. But before we get to any of that, you guys can find us anywhere on social media. Apple Music, we got Instagram, we
Audible,
have a website, Audible, all that good stuff.
Only.
And if you guys want to go back and listen to any of our most recent, or any of our episodes, just look up KCAA, Whatever Works, Spotify, all that good stuff. You'll find us
YouTube for
there.
sure. We're on YouTube.
Yep. And before we get started, we're going to do a quick shout out to our sponsor.
SNJRadio.com. No negative news, no politics, just feel good music.
Awesome. So I know it's been a while since we had a guest on here, guys. A new guest. Usually we have some reoccurring guests the last couple weeks here, but super excited to have this one on. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing good.
Yes.
Good day. My name is Ryan Lara. I am what do you want me to say about myself? Like my job? Like
Anything.
Yeah.
Who is Ryan Lara?
I'm here, local resident of Redlands, California. I know Sam through work, so I'm the broker at Century 21 Lois Lara Realty. Also the vice president of operations. So I run, help run the company alongside our owner Kristen Pierce. So and Sam's one of our sales professionals, and that's how we know each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ryan Lara, he transferred to Century 21 about a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah, I was with another company for network for 7 years through my real estate journey. My mom was an agent too, so I grew up in the industry. I was there for 7 years, and this is a fantastic opportunity to be the broker with Kristen Pierce at Century 21 Lois Lara Realty. So that's
super exciting. And actually, there's a lot of real estate agents that advertise with this radio station. And,
awesome!
And actually,
cool.
some real estate agents have a show here at this station. So
that's awesome.
They might even know who you are. They're probably listening, like Ryan Lara.
Oh, cool, good.
So it's very exciting. But I'm actually really glad that you're here on the show, because we had some conversations a few times, and it wasn't really much of an interview. It was just like, we got to know each other. It was a great time. We always have a great time. But now this time it's like, okay, because you're the one inviting me. You're like, hey, let's go out. Let's talk. But now it's like, I'm inviting you now.
Yeah.
So now it's like,
this is your home field advantage, not mine.
I hope you're nervous. No, I'm just kidding.
No, let's do it.
Ryan is a man with many talents, and he's a hardworking man. You work almost every day, 25/8.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the demands on my time are pretty heavy. Like, the moment markets open in the East Coast, like my attention is needed on stuff. So, and I get calls and text messages even late at night and stuff. So do not disturb is my friend sometimes in terms of setting boundaries. But a lot of I try to be as available as possible for like my agents, and I think like having like a broker who like answers the phone and answers text messages is like important in real estate. And so I think the best ability is availability, and so that's important to me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So for the listeners out there who don't know who a broker is or know anything about real estate, can you just tell us what the importance of a broker is?
Yeah. So to give you like to zoom out a little bit. So our company, it's 3 offices, about 130 sales professionals. We're in Redlands, we're in Yucaipa, and we're in Banning. Banning is our Century 21 Sun Lakes Realty office. And so if you look up on the California Department of Real Estate website who the broker is, it's me. Like I'm the guy who's in charge, so to speak.
Right.
So if our agents ever need any support, especially when it comes down to like contracts and negotiating, and they get into a pickle, I tend to be the first call. But to be frank, most of our agents, like 80% of my calls are like, hey, Ryan, I think this is what I'm supposed to do, but is this what I should do? And I think a lot of agents just want like some perspective or some help on what they need to do.
So like reassurance on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad they call you before they actually do it, because that next call could have been like, hey,
Sometimes
I did
they
this.
don't. Sometimes they don't call me right before, and then it's like, hey, Ryan, here's a little bit of a a situation. And, now when you got to deal with it, and, that's part of my job too. It happens sometimes.
Yeah. And your responses always come, like, ask me before you do it. No, just kidding.
Yeah, well, the sooner I know, the sooner I could do something about it.
Right.
But, sometimes if it's, I get a situation, it's like, oh, if I knew about this like a week ago, I probably could have, gotten ahead of it. But, in real estate, time frames are important. If any of our listeners have bought or sold a home, they know how crucial like every single day could be.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk too much about real estate, but obviously it's gonna come in and out of our conversations. But there is something I do want to talk about because you're a young stud. And to be a VP over 130 people, you spoke earlier today about setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Like with yourself and with the business. And a lot of it is like every time Kyle and I have conversations, especially if it's just him and I, we get so deep in psychology. Yeah. It's just like it's down a rabbit hole. Yeah. But for a lot of people, even if you're not, controlling or you're ahead of 130 people, if you're just trying to control yourself or just try to do something about your life, having set boundaries is very important. And I want to ask you, how do you set your boundaries?
Well, when I first started real estate, I really struggled with boundaries. And that's because prior to real estate, I came from education. And I was in special education. And to be frank, just the field of education in general, if your contract time, if you end at 3:30 and someone tries to get you to do something at 3:32, it's like, nope. Nope. Talk to my union rep. Some educators really go that route. They're that rigid with their boundaries. And then, going from that field to real estate, that was, complete change where now there is that boundary is very nebulous. It's gray area. The demands on your time are really, kind of conforming to whatever your clients need. And so, that was a huge struggle for me up front. I was very, for sure, early real estate, Ryan, was struggling with work-life balance. But over the years, I think I've improved on it. I mentioned do not disturb. Right. That can be my friend sometimes. But I think it's just, I think everyone could always improve on, different parts of their life. And for me, it was improving work-life balance. And I still don't think it's perfect. But you improve a little bit here and there.
Okay.
Yeah,
1% better every day, I say.
When I first started real estate, Oscar was my first mentor, and we actually had him on the show. And he says, when everyone starts, it's there's always an area to work on. You have strengths and weaknesses. And for him and for Oscar and for me, my weakness is organization. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure over time, once I work on the organization, then there'll probably be another side of me that's the weaker link. Even if it's not weak, it's just something that I can improve on.
Right.
What is something that you have strengthened over the time, and then now there's a new thing that you got to strengthen?
Gotcha. Yeah. So first off, I'd say if any of our listeners just listen looked at themselves candidly in the mirror and gave yourself a report card on everything, yourself physically, financially, spiritually, you can get really into the weeds about everything. But if you literally you're a teacher and you grade yourself on each of these things, you're gonna find some deficiencies, right? You're gonna find some strengths, obviously, but you're gonna find some deficiencies. And I think a big part of success is shoring up those deficiencies. Like I just mentioned the report card. All of us probably have a couple of things that are D's, hopefully not some F's, but. Getting that D to a C, getting that C to a B, it doesn't have to be a transformational change, but at least shoring up some of your weaknesses, I think, can be really helpful. So for myself, I think boundaries and work-life balance for sure was something that I was giving myself a big fat F on before that I've improved on a little bit. But ultimately, gosh, I think just being more disciplined and, when you're in a 1099 independent contractor type, role where, it's about your work ethic and your drive. No one's pulling you out of bed. There's no time to report type thing. It's up to you to put, food on the table. And I'll tell the agents, in my company that, we'll give you the tools and we'll help you succeed, but it's a two-way street. You need to put the work ethic, and drive behind it too to make it happen. And I think that was something that at first maybe I could have been, I was in my 20s when I started real estate, and 20-year-old guy, you can easily find distractions or just, just with your time or whatever else. But I think over time, just maturity and getting better with that was a big thing.
From someone who was a manager, because I used to be a manager and, kind of looked over a lot of people too. From manager to manager, So looking at your deficiencies inward is a good thing. How do you deal with agents or other people who feel like they're perfect or feel like they don't really have deficiencies? Because there are some people out there, and I'm sure you could probably think of names, but
oh, for sure. I just got I don't want to say PTSD from some transactions. Right? And back from the time when I was in sales, but I almost think of a real estate transaction like a group project, like from school.
Right.
Like these are the people who you're assigned with, and you don't really have a choice. Like you got to work with them.
And there's always that one guy that doesn't
do anything. You get that one person who's like the hero at the last minute.
Right, yeah,
like everyone has a role, right? And I think with those particular situations, like I think it's like limiting your interactions with someone like that in the first place. Like I don't think a lot of successful organizations out there really thrive with a lot of those type of individuals in them.
Right.
Like that's not the type of culture and environment that, if you're running an organization, you want to encourage that type of behavior because, those type of people, I remember growing up, my pastor would always say, like, you put one bad piece of fruit with all the fruit, what's going to happen?
Right.
It all goes bad. But sometimes we're forced to deal with these people or handle them. And I think it's really just kind of like mitigating and dealing with them. Like part of my job is dealing with drama and, and abuse, I almost want to say. But really just kind of limiting those interactions, I think is key.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
But playing with the hand you're dealt, like you can't scream at the wind, yell at the wind, as I say, like you just got to deal with it.
Right. And a lot of those times, those people get weeded out by themselves.
For sure.
But usually...
And if they leave, it's like, okay.
Right, yeah.
Like, no big deal.
Yeah, you just try your best to, like, make sure that that exit is mutual. It's not, there's no bad blood.
For sure. I think it's just, it's what's best for everyone. I think a lot of times, I don't know why, I think it's part of, like, American, like, work culture. People take it, like, personal.
Right.
Like, departures and things like that. Yeah. And... I understand it's just part of life, and people move on to different opportunities and situations, and also like life happens and life situations happen too. Like you can't take it all personally.
Yeah, I like to tell my people like, hey, let's we have conversations and they might get like kind of serious, right, a little deep, but at the end of the day, you have to take it professionally, not personally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like my motto because a lot of people they do take it personally, and recently. I want to say like in the last year I've been taking stuff more personally for whatever reason. I'm like I need to relax. I need to chill.
Yeah.
And I just think it's because like a lot of other people are taking it personally. So it's just like a mirroring reaction.
Yeah.
I guess you can.
Well,
say.
look at your example at the smallest scale. Someone like honking at you, like while you're driving, right? Some random stranger you don't even know. You did nothing wrong, and they're just honking at you for no reason, right? Like they're just dumping their like drama,
right?
Their attitude on you. But it's about that can affect you, right? You have to limit like how much that affects you, and if you could be sensitive and take it personally, and get road rage back at them. But what does that serve?
Right.
Yeah. The worst thing for me, like when I first became a manager, I hated firing people because it was like. That was the one conversations I didn't want to have.
Right.
Because, you want everyone to succeed, even yourself, but, you want, especially your team, because in a sales environment where I came from, if everyone's doing good, the store's doing good, everyone gets bonuses. Everyone, it's reciprocal. But, I always try to leave it like, if I did have to end up firing somebody, it was like, I'm not cutting ties with you, I'm helping you find something that's a better fit for you. And a lot of times I'd have these meetings where I'd be like, okay, let's look at Indeed together. Let's figure it out. Because sales, it's not really your thing. I can tell. And it's not for everybody. And you have to be the one that says, hey, you're a good guy. I like what you're about, but sales is not for you.
I'm a believer that if you leave a struggling sales professional on your roster, you're doing them a disservice.
Right.
And in real estate, some of the company models out there, they charge their agents like monthly fees to stay on their company, and those companies are happy to let you collect dust.
Right.
They don't care. You don't care if you close any deals or not. Our brokerage, we tend to, we're full service traditional brokerage. Model. We make money off closings. Our agents do well, we do well, type thing. So. I think that's the right approach to have, with a positive mindset.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and how do you really find yourself when it comes to like the occupation? Because you know, a lot of things we talked about this before with the school system. I don't hate on it, but I do think, like with me, I'm a good example of it. I went to college not knowing where I wanted to go.
Right.
So therefore, I was just dumping money for no reason. Like, it's an experience to like try to find yourself, but like at that point in time, like I wasn't getting like financial aid or anything like that, you know. So I was like really struggling, just like putting, you know, money where I just didn't know what I was doing with it. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you find yourself? And one of the questions you asked me one time was like, so who is Sam? You know? And I kid you not, my lady hates me for it. 'Cause she's like, you always ask yourself that. You know, it's like, what does Sam want? You know what I mean? And I think about it, and you know, a lot of times some people never figure out who they are.
Right.
You know, if you ask someone who are you, they're like, oh, well, I'm James. I'm like, no, that's your name, but like, who are you? You know, and a lot of people don't do a lot of self-reflection. You know, they just kind of either live in the moment in today's society that's just being distracted, or thinking too much of the future but not thinking about yourself. You know what I mean? Thinking about the things that you don't have, or you know, it's just like, but there's no self-reflection. There's no figuring out who you are, what you want to be, and how to you know, get there. And so like for Ryan, like you've been a VP, you've done a lot in your life and your career. Like how were you able to find yourself, or how can people like help them find themselves?
Well, I would start with, I think a lot of people in their lives are just jumping to the demands of others. A lot of us may have like family or friends who, you know, hey, they, you know, you may be someone who needs to take their, you know, mom to the clinic, you know, 3 times a week or something, or like you have demands in your life that could be varied, whatever that may be. And so I think a lot of us, you know, in 2024, we can be so easily distracted, like you said, Sam. And the demands on our time are great that we're easily distracted. And, you know, someone says, you know, squirrel, you go, huh? You just jump and look. But how often are you taking time, you know, to really look inward? Like journaling, I love journaling. I'm a huge advocate for it. I think a lot of us need like 5 minutes of peace in the morning to like center yourself, what's your goal for the day. But so many of us, you know, I think are just in bed and jump out and go, hey, we need to just start the day and jump to work or do whatever we need to do. Right. We need to go run that errand for our sister or brother or family member, friend or whatever. But I think it's proper to be a touch selfish. I think it's okay to look inward a little bit and say, I need to take care of my needs and what I need to accomplish as well. But so often I think we just jump for everyone else and we lack that self-awareness.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jim Rohn. He was like, here's something that I learned that really changed me. Instead of me helping you, how about me help myself and then you help yourself in order for us to grow? You know, because it's almost like if someone's drowning in the water, they always say, don't jump in there and try to help them because they're gonna drown you. You know what I mean? And it's like at one point you want to be there for everybody, but if you don't work on yourself, if you don't grow, then you're stagnant. You know, there is no growth. And imagine if you worked on yourself and you grew, what you can share with the other person.
I'm a believer that every day you become 1% better, 1% worse.
Right.
There's no middle ground. If you're saying stagnant, that's actually worse. Like
you're actually
you're losing. You're actually you know, decreasing. So when you put your head on your pillow at night, was it a day that you improved or was it a day you got worse? Like it's one or the other. And so I think a lot of us, if we just have the mindset of, am I improving today? And looking at that report card I mentioned earlier, like what do I need to work on? Again, that self-awareness of like, what do I need? How do I level up or become that, you know, person I want to become?
Right. And like, I feel like it's kind of hard to give life advice when you haven't experienced life. And so, you know, and you experience life by going through the motions, living your life to the fullest, and kind of, you know, my favorite thing is to learn about other people, like either it's one-on-one or just getting to know other people, because there's some things that you go on in your life, Sam goes on in his life that I'll never experience, but I could help one of you two, and vice versa. And so, you know, just kind of figuring it out, you know. And my dad and his mentor always told me, he's, you know, that your body's a temple, and that if you don't like the look of your temple, there's no reason why you should be going out and looking at other temples. You have to kind of fix that yourself. That way you can invite other people, whether it's spiritually, whether it's like in person, to kind of expand and get to know more about life.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that getting out of your bubble and getting out of your immediate like sphere of influence, I think is huge. Since the pandemic, I think a lot of us have just become kind of just in our own little bubbles and groups of people. We're become little echo chambers. Our immediate circles are people who parrot the same opinions we have, and we don't get exposed to others who have differing opinions. And I think that's healthy.
Right.
When I talk, I give a political example. I say like, in 2000, my mom and dad, my dad voted for Gore, my mom voted for Bush, and no one cares. No one cares. It wasn't a big deal. But today our politics are so polarized.
Right.
And one example is politics, but a lot of people have their own examples of what they care about or what's important to them. It could be religion. It could, you give that example in anything. But things can definitely, I think people are just need to get out of their, talk to their neighbors, like talk to people that you don't normally talk with.
See, and that's the thing that, like, when my mom moved into her house when I was a little kid, so 24 years ago, like, we knew our neighbors, we talked to our neighbors, like, our neighbor Joy, she was awesome, but nowadays, it's like, and I also think this might be one of the reasons why. One is, like, real estate is such a big thing. Like, maybe back then it was like, yeah, get yourself a home and, stay there, right? This is your forever home. But, like, now it's like people have different avenues of reasons to get a house, right? And they say, like, on average, you move, like, 4 times or something. You buy a house, get married, have kids, upgrade, downgrade.
Yeah, that number's increased now, but that was like the old mantra, like 4 times.
Right.
And yeah, it's these are huge transactions that, are such monumental shifts for any family, right? A lot of people are doing this because of life triggering events. They're marriage, divorce, birth, death, like it could
job.
It could be tons of different things.
Yeah, investments. Yeah. It's like, oh, now you're investing in a home. Back in the day, like during like the family nuke, like the nuke families, like it was just like you get one house, you stay there, you invite your neighbors over for dinner. Mm-hmm. It's a great time, Yeah. And now it's like you don't even know your neighbors. Like, you really don't.
Yeah, things have for sure shifted that way, which is not how I think society should be going, right?
Right,
exactly.
It should
be, when was the last time you brought a pie to your neighbor? That type of thing. That type of activity doesn't happen anymore, whereas I see previous generations, I'm a millennial, and I see previous generations where that attitude was definitely more so adopted.
Right.
There, I feel like there is a kind of like a little bit of a safety net with social media and our cell phones. I call them leashes sometimes.
Right.
We're so connected that we know we can talk to people so readily. It's so readily available that we may just not do it though. We know we can, but we don't necessarily do it.
Yeah, definitely.
And even out in the public, like when you see people that you see all the time, like every once in a while, if you haven't seen someone in a while, you're like, oh hey, da-da-da.
Yeah.
But now it's like if you see someone like quite frequently, then it's just like there's less of a conversation there because like you're already in that room, And I actually get that a lot at the gym. When I used to go to the gym, like straight out of high school, like I knew everybody, right? So everyone would want to say hi. I couldn't really get my workout in, and now it's like we see each other all the time, but we acknowledge each other. You acknowledge your neighbors, but you don't really talk to them
it's
anymore.
that gym where it's like,
yep,
Yeah,
and it kind of like makes you not be social,
right?
And we're social creatures. And like my favorite thing to do is like there's some people who, when they go out, they like to stay local. Like, oh, stay in Yucaipa, stay in Redlands. Me personally, I like the feeling of being completely somewhere else. It just makes me feel good because now I'm like, no one knows me. I can smile at everybody. Like, I won't have a problem. Like, I can have a conversation with a new person. You know what I mean?
So. A real quick funny story. My wife and I, we went on our honeymoon to Barcelona, and we're sitting at a random bar, and we're just having food. And we just strike up a conversation with people next to us, and they're Americans, and we're just like, we're just catching up, or like, just kind of like, where'd you come from?
Right.
And they're like, oh, we're from California, and they're like, oh, what part? And I had said Redlands, and they're like, "Oh, we're from Loma Linda." So here we are in Barcelona.
That's small
and,
world.
And the people next to us are from Loma Linda.
I would have hated that. You know?
Yeah.
Like I want to meet someone. Like let me talk to someone from here, or like
Yeah.
you know, give me this crazy story.
I'm a big fan of again breaking out of your circle, and
Yes.
and if that's traveling too, going to a state you've never been to, an
Right.
area you've never been. You know, I think we're really bad at that in California because we have so many amenities here that we don't have
Right.
to travel out to anywhere else.
True.
Yeah.
And other people, well, here's a perfect example. You go to Disneyland, right? For us, Disneyland's so readily available. It's it's an hour change away in Anaheim, right? But I go to Disneyland, and for me, it's just like, yep, I'm here. Whereas, I also run into a family of 8 from Wisconsin that this is their big family trip,
Right, yeah.
And they've planned this for 2 years, and they all have
Right.
matching shirts, and it's like this huge deal for them, right?
Like wow, we made it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think for us, especially here in Southern California, like just get out for a minute, go travel
Yeah.
somewhere and meet some more people because we are very different from the rest of the country.
Right, exactly.
Very.
And especially here, like we're an hour from the desert.
An
We're
hour
out-
from the mountains.
Yeah, we're an hour from the mountains. We're an hour from the beach.
I love the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
By the way, one of my favorite stats of the Inland Empire, I like to say, we have a higher population than the entire state of Oregon. Like this
Really?
area is just growing and booming, and has tons of people. So I love the long-term prospects of this region.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, something that I've always wanted to do because we live literally everything is so close. I always wanted to hit all that in one day. Like I wanted to start off in the desert, go riding, whatever, camping, and then head to the mountains and then work my way down the beach. Like I want to go to the desert, snowboard, surfing, all in one day because we can.
You can.
Yeah.
You definitely can, And I was like, man, I really want to do that one of these days.
And that's where it comes back to, right? We have these amenities available to us, and we don't necessarily, take advantage of them. My cousin, came from Dallas, Texas, and visited me here in Redlands, and it was like one day he was up in Lake Arrowhead, the next day he was at the beach, the next day he was at Joshua Tree, like,
Yeah.
In Dallas, you go to Dallas. Oh, by the way, I'll be there tomorrow, but you go to Dallas and it's just flat everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no
Oh, yeah.
there's no topography. It's just
No.
humidity. It's heat.
It's just
I'm
It's
talking
heat.
about August. I'm talking about August in Dallas, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Try
then
and dodge
he comes
tornadoes.
here.
Yeah.
It comes here at Redlands, the IE is like, wow, like you have so much.
Culture-
So
it's a
close
culture
to you.
shock.
Oh, for sure.
I was listening to this comedy show with Bill Burr. And he's like, oh man, he's like, I'm so glad to be here. And then he's like, I don't know why I chose this time of year to be here though, because it's hot. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like he's like, but I'm glad to be here though.
Yeah.
And it really is. Like I remember when I went to Florida, super humid, and when I came to the point where like if it looks cold outside, like it's still hot, it's still icky. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I came back to Cali, it was just like that. Like if it looks cold, it's cold.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I was like, oh man, it was a trickery out in Florida. I did not like it.
Yeah, I was in Paso Robles not
Okay,
too
yeah.
long ago. I want to say this was July, and it was like 106 or something hot. I was at a winery. I was just like, it was a little miserable being outside. And then I want to say, we get back on the 101. We're driving a little further south. Like a little while later, we're in Pismo Beach, and it's like 67, like
yeah.
Nice.
like foggy,
Crazy.
cold. Like I love California. I love the weather here.
Yeah.
it's,
Right.
it's amazing. The weather is the grip here. That's the thing that's gonna make
Yeah.
me.
I feel like
here
a
till
lot
the
of people
end.
move here because of the weather.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can if you can handle anything like everything else, then all right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's perspective too, because if you go to Florida, you're basically, you're dealing with those hurricanes are like bowling balls just aiming at you.
Right,
You're
yeah.
hoping it misses you, right? Every year, that whole region, and you have tornadoes in the Midwest. Like so many areas have their
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
And
we got earthquakes here, but they're not like as like
I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
I can live with it.
and which is crazy because like most of the other storms and like all those like natural things are like very catastrophic.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like California we're supposed to have earthquakes, but really our earthquakes are not that bad.
Well, it will be one day.
Yeah, it will be
Like,
one
it's not
day,
if,
yeah.
it's,
that one day, yeah,
when,
it's gonna
if not,
it's gonna
it
hit.
tends to be.
What was it? A few months ago, there was an earthquake that hit near San Bernardino, but it was like a 6.4 or something, and I was in this basement. I was at the Andresa building, which is, by the way, guys, the Enterprise building was built in 1927. It's an old building. I'm in the basement, and I think it's on like rollers,
Yeah.
or something. And we're just sitting there having this meeting, and then that 6.4 earthquake hit,
Yeah.
and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was thinking about it the whole time, like, no matter what, I'm screwed. Like, I'm in the basement. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and it's a 5-story building, so if everything crumbles, like,
That's it.
yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I
it.
mean? And so
It's a super outdated building too.
it really is, but it's beautiful.
It
It's
is.
very beautiful.
You know,
Yeah.
lots of good history.
We'll have you be there. I was thinking, like, because I had my mom's birthday there last year, and it's in San Bernardino. It's right across the street from City Hall. It's off of East Street. It was adjacent to the Carousel Mall that they tore down and flattened, unfortunately. But, you know, I threw her 50th birthday there, and when you're in that building, like, especially when you're in the banquet room, it doesn't feel like you're in San Bernardino. It's real nice. It's
Yeah.
a nice building. They keep it up, thanks to the owners. However, because of the location, and we did it, like, in the evening, like, my mom's friends, like, teacher friends, like, they're all teachers from San Bernardino. So they're like, we're not going to be at San Bernardino at night. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we hired armed guards. And then, like, that didn't help the case at all. They're
Yeah,
like,
just to prove my point.
yeah, if you have to have armed guards,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But we still had a good time. A handful of people did show up. It was good. And I just, like, I really like that place just for, like, the history of it and just the way it is.
There's so much history in San Bernardino.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an amazing city.
And I was like,
Long-term wise, obviously,
Right,
like
yeah.
right now, it's in not the best shape, obviously, but long-term wise,
There- and-
has a rich history for sure.
it does. All right, guys, I just got that cue. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We can do a 2-minute break. 5-minute break, but when we come back, we're going to continue talking to Ryan Lara, VP at Lois Law Realty. Stay tuned and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in Durga, walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best.
From the Bureau of Economic Geology, this is Earth Date. Here's a kind of weather you may not know about. Every few days, the sun emits electrically charged particles, which stream to Earth in what we call solar wind. And when solar wind meets the Earth's magnetic field, we sometimes get a magnetic storm. Magnetic storms can interfere with satellite, GPS, and radio signals, but their most serious effect is when they create electrical fields in the Earth's interior. These electric fields have melted power line transformers and even caused a power grid in Canada to fail, leaving 6 million people without electricity. Magnetic storms are more common at higher latitudes, where they create the famous northern lights. During intense storms, these auroras can light up the sky much farther south, into the central United States and beyond. How much a magnetic storm could affect the power grid depends on geology. Sedimentary rocks, like sandstone and limestone, are good conductors. In areas with these types of rocks, the natural currents tend to stay in the ground. But igneous rocks, like granite, are poor conductors. Here, electrical fields look for more conductive paths, which tend to be man-made networks, like power grids, and which may not be able to withstand that unpredictable extra current. To help utility companies safeguard against these effects, scientists are combining ground conductivity data with magnetic storm history to produce a geoelectric hazard map. It's a new way of weather forecasting that just may help keep the lights on. I'm Scott Tinker, and thanks for listening.
Earth Date is produced by the Bureau of Economic Geology at the University of Texas at Austin. Earth Date is researched by Julie Hennings, written by Harry Lynch, and distributed by Mark Blunt and Casey Walker. For more stories, follow us on Facebook or visit earthdate.org.
TV journalist Jane Velez Mitchell here, excited to tell you about my show, Unchained TV, Animals, People, Planet. Most of us say we love animals. When we truly respect them, we benefit with a happier outlook, better health, even nicer weather. I'll explain when you join me Mondays at 1 p.m. on KCAA 1050 AM 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listener behind. And check out UnchainedTV.com.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Spear, a licensed agent with Litchfield Insurance Associates here in Beaumont. A large portion of Americans don't have life insurance or don't have enough. Whether you need a temporary policy, something to help with income during retirement, or making sure your final expenses are taken care of, having life insurance is an act of love and security for your whole family. Having a local trusted agent makes navigating through the sometimes complex world of life insurance so much easier. And I would love to be the one to help you. I'm Kaylee Spear. For your free consultation, people are calling 951-769-0005. 951-769-0005.
You like to safely leverage bank money to earn double-digit returns, income tax-free, with guarantees and no downside market risk? How can you do this? This is Ference, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. 1. You fund a high cash value policy one time to earn dividends and interest. 2. Establish a bank line of credit using the cash in your policy as collateral. When you earn more in dividends from your policy than the interest the bank charges, you keep the difference. And the difference is averaged 2 to 5% annually in your favor for the past 40 plus years. 3. The bank funds contributions years 2 to 20 plus. Each year the bank adds funds, your rate of return increases. Your average rate of return can grow to strong double digits annually within a few years. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com, yourpersonalbank.com, or 866-268-4422, 866-268-4422 for more info, or tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show.
Your Personal Bank Show airs Tuesdays at 4 p.m. right here on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM, the station that leaves no listeners behind.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best. Yeah, hey, every day can be a better day despite the challenge. All you gotta do is leave it better than you found it. It's gonna get difficult to stand, but hold your balance. I just say whatever, cause there is no way you're around it. Everyone falls down sometime, but you just gotta know it'll all be fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best. Hey, some days you wake up and nothing works, you feel surrounded. Gotta give your feet some gravity to get you grounded. Keep good things inside your ears just like the waves and sound it. And just say whatever, cause there is no way you're around it.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Sunday. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM. I'm your host, Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
And Ryan Lara.
And Ryan Lara.
That's
yes, if you guys are just tuning in, we do have a good friend of mine. His name is Ryan Lara. He's the VP of Century 21 Lois Law Realty. I was going to say here in Yucaipa, but it's actually all three offices, Redlands, Yucaipa, and is it Beaumont?
Banning.
Banning.
Sun Lakes. We're
Yeah.
right outside Sun Lakes
Sun
Country
Lakes,
Club.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And so if you guys are just tuning in, you guys want to go back and listen to the first half of the show, just look up KCAA, Whatever Works. You can go to kcaradio.com. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. Before we jump back into our conversation, you know what time it is, Kyle.
SNJRadio.com. No negative news, no politics, just feel good music.
Feel good.
All right, feeling good. So Ryan Law is a VP for real estate, and we're kind of just talking about real estate outside. And one of the things is, before we went on the show, I wanted to explain that, you know, one of these guys, the bartender, he was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying a house with me and my girlfriend. They've been waiting for a long time, and you know, I'm telling them all the benefits of buying a house, this and this." And then he asked me about real estate the other day, and I tell him, well, there's this new law, which I'll have Ryan explain, just like, you know, a little brief summary of it. But basically, he was like, so everyone's just like not gonna have an agent and you just send in your own offers? I was like, yeah, but that's gonna cause lawsuits, dude. Like, you really want an agent to be by your side to protect you and to negotiate for you and to guide you through the process. And I told him, I was like, dude, it's a full-time job. And if you're already working full-time, good luck. You know what I mean? And he kind of looked at me, and I was like, we don't just like sign a deal and then you get the house. Like there's a reason why escrow is like 30 to 45 days, you know, like on average typically. And so, but Ryan, would you like to just summarize what the new law is?
Cliff Notes version. So there was so Department of Justice and National Association of Realtors, you know, they had a settlement. Basically, the Cliff Notes version of it is there can't be offers of compensation on the MLS. And now, if you want to see a property, you need to have a signed agreement with an agent prior to the first showing. Mm-hmm. So that's something that it's a practice change. It's something that's never happened before in in the real estate industry. You know, the closest thing we've dealt with was during the pandemic. We had these coronavirus property entry advisories. We had to have buyers sign. This is somewhat similar to that, but basically you have to have a signed agreement with a signed like compensation amount that you would potentially compensate your buyer's agent for the services they give you. It's almost like retaining a lawyer. You're retaining representation. Mm-hmm. And then obviously when you submit an offer, you can ask the seller to compensate your agent for the services they render you. So yeah, that's the Cliff Notes of it.
Okay.
And what's really cool, Carla, my broker over in the Kaipa office, she was really proud of us, you know, thanks to you and Carla and everyone helping in. Like, we knew this was coming and we prepared for it, right? And she was like, you know, I heard from all different offices and different brokerages, like they're all freaking out.
Yes. A lot of people were not prepared for this. And I noticed a lot of the bigger brokerages in our market center, shout out to like, you know, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, like we're competitors, but like, you know, I can recognize when our competitors do a good job of preparing their agents, and, you know, it helps our local market, right? You want to make sure that, you know, again, I mentioned a group project, right? You want to make sure that people you're working, even if they're your, I'm doing air quotes, you know, adversary, so to speak, in a transaction, that they know what they're doing and they know how to, you know, properly, you know, do a real estate transaction. Yeah. So, you know, I noticed some companies did a really good job of getting their agents ready, and some agents also had no idea this was happening. Yeah. Right. You know, part of my job, you know, as a broker for my company, is recruiting and bringing agents in, and it was a little scary to be frank about, you know, meeting some agents, especially from, you know, smaller brokerages or not as big companies that weren't training their agents. And, you know, I'd talk to them, oh, what do you think about this practice change settlement? The Department of Justice did all this, and they just look at me with wide eyes like, what?
Huh?
Yeah. And we had a massive meeting with Tigar. Is it Tigar?
Tigar, yeah. The Inland Gateway Association of Realtors.
Yeah. So we had agents from different brokerages come up, and we talked about this whole thing. And the two things that they touched up on was like, okay, education, like educating your buyers and sellers and everyone that's pulled into it. And also communication, right? And which is good, like agreed, communication, education. But the one thing that they left out was expectation. You know, and the reason why I say that is because you're the one that actually told me about that. He like a lot of confrontation, whether it's in business, family, relationships, anything. It's really due to kind of somewhat
a difference in expectations.
Different expectations. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, you can educate your buyers, you can educate your sellers, you can you know, communicate with them, but like really it's like, okay, so what are we expecting here? Like, do you expect me to pay now, or like what are the expectations? And that's the only thing that whole panel of agents left out in teaching of like us other agents as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in any business, if it's real estate or any field you're in, I think a lot of friction you may have with your peers or anything is just a difference in expectations. Like they expected something different from you, and I think that's where you could potentially have, you know, friction with a client or an agent if you're, you know, that relationship. Right. For the listeners out there, the new reality of the real estate market is if you want us to go see a property, you need to have a signed agreement with an agent. Like that's how things are. That's the new normal now. Mm-hmm. Right. I hate that term, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah. That's just the reality now of it. Now, what we need to do, I think, a better job as an industry, as you know, for realtors and real estate in general, is educating the consumer. I think there's a knowledge gap from, you know, if we're not educating our clients on what's going on in the market, what's going on in the industry, then guess where they're getting that information? It's from Twitter, it's from social media. It's you know, they're getting it from somewhere else. So we need to, you know, hopefully our listeners, you have a relationship with someone who's an agent. There's a lot of them in the state of California, and hopefully have someone close to you who can advise you and guide you on the process, because it's very complicated. And California is a very litigious environment.
Right.
There, you know, this is where people need to zoom out a little bit. California is much more litigious, by far, not even close compared to the other 49 states. People just, you know, the first sign of trouble in a real estate transaction, oh, I'm getting my attorneys involved. Oh, you know, it's
right.
Oh, I hear it all the time. It's just how, you know, it's just my day to day. But you know, you want to have an agent to protect you. You want to have someone looking out in your best interests. I've heard some people say, "Oh, I'm just going to have an attorney write an offer for me," and it's like, yeah, you could do that, but are they going to negotiate for you? Are they going to like go back and forth for you and be there at the home inspection, deal with the lender, deal with the appraisal? Like, that's a one-time payment type thing.
Right.
What I would be doing, you know, I want to retain someone to represent me throughout the process.
Yeah, especially a professional, for one. And I think I'm not saying cool thing, but the thing is that this is definitely the real estate world, and most people, even some agents, don't even know that this happened.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
So when you talk to these new buyers, it's okay as long as you're confident and know what you're saying and know what you're doing and know the process. Yeah, these buyers are just gonna listen to you and follow through. You know, they're not gonna be like, oh, and have like, you know, unless they heard it somehow. But really, it's like even an algorithm. Like I didn't have anything on my social media about real estate until I started real estate. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like even the news, like very quick, in and out. You know, they moved on. So like over time, like as long as you're confident, you know what you're talking about, and you can, you know, they trust you and they trust the process, like there's really nothing to freak out about.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that any industry, you have people who aren't that good, right? Like if plumbers, teachers, even here, you know, at a radio station, you probably have that one person who's like, why do they have a show? What are they doing? And it's the same thing in real estate. There's some agents out there, like, you know, they should not be carrying a license. The state of California, it's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult to get a real estate license to be a salesperson, but ultimately you just need to make sure that the person representing you is good. Same thing with lawyers too. Like there's good lawyers, bad lawyers out there. Like that, like say any field that applies to.
Yeah. And like, so I'm a property inspector, and I do appraising reports too. Like I do Sallie Mae, and so the process of me doing that is a lot easier when the real estate agents and the people involved are knowledgeable. Whereas I've been at houses and try to do Sallie Mae, and it's like I'm here for 4 hours because the lender doesn't know anything. They can't get a hold of the policy holders that are currently on the at the house. They can't get a hold of the owners or the new buyers. They can't get a hold of the real estate agent. And everyone's on different pages, and I'm sitting here like, I don't care because I'm getting paid hourly. But you guys got to figure it out because you guys are all 1099.
Who you work with matters.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I'm sitting there chilling, doing my paperwork, but I'm just like, you want the buyer to get the house. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people even go to the mindset of cheaper is better, and you'll always find someone who can do it for $1 cheaper type thing.
I hate that.
And I've dealt with clients who have that mentality, and I would advise our listeners, please, to not have that mentality in one of the largest financial transactions of your lifetime.
Right.
Discounts are good for burritos, not for like six-figure homes, seven-figure homes. Hiring good representation it will pay for itself, and more so. Like you're going to make that money and get more back because you're going to have someone, if you hire a good listing agent, the buyer's agent's like, well, we want 20 different repairs done or whatever else, and you have a good listing agent, they're gonna say no, like you're crazy, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do we'll do the important stuff, health and safety or whatever. But that's the type of stuff that saves you money over the long run.
Right. You did bring up working with people is important, like who you choose to work with. I know you went to other brokerages. What made you come to Century 21?
I think having a professionally run organization is paramount, and I've worked in organizations that are really well run and ones that are not. And so to have that perspective of seeing the tough times and also the good times, I think for me it's really from the top down, the culture has to be right. and the leadership has to be in a good place.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I'm the most proud of, being in leadership where I am is, I do, we talked about firing people earlier. That, that's part of my job. It's not the part I like to do, but it's part of it. Hiring and firing. And one thing I'm proud about our organization as far as like staff and leadership is there's like no bad people. Like I've worked in real estate environments where you need to like worry about someone backstabbing you, or worrying about, and our listeners could probably attribute to any workplace they've been in, like, oh, watch out for that person. They're going to talk badly about you.
I was going to say, there's always that one person.
There's always that one person, whatever.
That warn you.
Yeah, and thankfully, our organization, we're in a position where we don't have that. And I think that when your staff feels good, your marketing people feel good, your ownership is good, everyone across the board has a growth mindset, a strong character, has a good work ethic. Your organization is going to be successful. And I don't think that's just real estate. I think any organization.
And on top of that, like our brokerage, a lot of them have been there for years.
Yeah.
They all pretty much grew up with each other their adult lives,
Yeah, it was very interesting to me, just in general, seeing the years of licensure in our roster and our brokerage. That was very intriguing to me. Like a lot of our agents have been there for like 20 plus years. And that's a good thing. We that they never saw the need to leave, that it was just that run well. So.
Yeah. We only have how much more time we got, Joe?
5 minutes. 4 minutes.
About 3 or 4 minutes. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about coming on the air and stuff?
No, I'm having a great time. Thank you for bringing me on. It was a great interview. I love talking real estate. I think that our listeners out there, I would just encourage you to like really just have a beat on the market. Home ownership is something that I think all of us should try to strive for and attain. If you're in a position where you can help your kids get a home, or please do. Like I really see our state as just the home prices are wild. The perspective I give people is in the state of California, the average sales price is $900,000, and in the entire country, I believe it's somewhere around $380,000, and so that's just a discrepancy in how wide. And how aggressive our real estate market is, and how sought after living in California is. You hear the tea leaves. You see people. People are leaving California, whatever else. There's people moving here too. And it's a sought after place.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's like 5 to 7 years in a row we've had an increase of people. I feel like.
Well, especially in the area that we live in the Inland Empire, and
people from the outside areas are moving here.
This region will be the Inland Empire will be the fastest growing region in Southern California in the next 50 years. Just from just Orange County, LA, San Diego County, they're all just built up. They're getting there. San Diego still has room to grow, but the IE for sure is where people can grow.
Yeah, I have a friend where his grandpa moved from Colorado. He went from California to Colorado, back to California, and he was like, why did you move back to California? Like, it doesn't make sense. He's like, I'll give you 3 reasons. He said January, February, and March.
I love that.
Like, it's true. Like, you don't want to be shoveling snow, being at such an older age. Like, that's too much. You don't want to go through all that. So and just where we're at now.
Some people love that, and they have places where they can do that.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't.
Yeah, you can find any problem here in California.
Yeah. Whereas, like, if there's 2 inches of snow on the ground, I have anxiety.
All right, you guys, we're going to be closing up here. Thank you, Ryan Lara, for coming in live here in the studio. Stick around for the Ferran Show at 8 o'clock. He's setting up here. Thank you, Joe, for being our board op. Thank you, Kyle, for being my co-host. And thank you, everyone who's been listening. Happy Sunday. Stay tuned. See you guys next week. Stay blessed.
Thank you, everyone.
Never stress. Got that sunshine on my Sunday bed.